Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Pichardo. I'm the Executive Director of Family and Community Engagement for the Providence School Department. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our first April-May Parent University session. And I am going to now ask William, Mr. Riley, and also Ms. Jen Francisco to introduce yourself. And then later we will go ahead and have Ms. D'Antuono introduce herself.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Riley. I am the principal over at Youngwoods Elementary School in Providence. We're very excited that we're going to be adding 170 students to our building next year. So we'll have about 700 students and we'll be Providence's largest elementary school. We love serving our population here in Providence. We're so thankful to have all of you here tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda J. Francesco, principal of Sackett Elementary School. We have Sackett Elementary School is connected to the Rec Center on Sackett Street, as well as offering one of the two bilingual schools in Providence. We have a bilingual strand here at Sackett Street where we often love to have our students be bilingual and proficient ready for middle school. Nice to meet you all.
And Judy, you can introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was waiting till they were done. So,
Okay.
hi, everyone. My name is Judy D'Antuono. I am the assistant principal at Dr. Jorge Alvarez High School in Providence. We are very proud Eagles, as you can see in the background, and also very proud of our brand new first in Providence Public Schools CTE Healthcare Academy. So, look forward to sharing more.
Okay, so Dr. Riley and Ms. Jen Francisco, you can go right ahead and share your screen and begin your portion of this presentation.
All right. Well, we are in RICAS. If your student has not come home talking about this, they have not told you what they are learning about at school, because I can guarantee any student at any of our 21 elementary schools has really been focusing on this to really make sure that they are prepared to excel this school year.
So a little bit about our time while we are presenting. We will go over some important questions that you might be asking yourself. What is RICAS? Why is it important? What types of questions will my child be asked? What have we been doing? We will go into our school data at that time. How do I prepare my child for RICAS? And how do I know my child performed on the 2023 RICAS assessment? So a little background on what is RICAS. RICAS is a high quality assessment that Rhode Island uses annually to assess all students in grades 3 through 8. So students, when we come back from April vacation, we will start our English language arts section. It is 2 days, 1 day of 120 minutes to 150 minutes for each section. In May, students will complete the math section, and that section will be 90 minutes for 2 days to complete the math section. A little bit of why it is important. Through RICAS, schools are able to get information about how the school performed, how students progress year after year, but also the new this year, we're able to analyze teacher classroom performance as well to look at student overall growth, student overall proficiency. Based on this, we're able to see how can we improve the school to improve teaching and learning so that we could do the best for our students here in Providence. These results are shared with our families, but also these results are used to create our turnaround action plan, as well as our school improvement plans.
So why focus on RICAS, right? So this is a picture of what an elementary school ride report card looks like. So you can access any of your school's ride report card by literally Googling just that. Then you type in your school's name and you're going to see exactly how many stars the school is. Okay. So here in Rhode Island, every school is ranked from 1 star to 5 stars. Our goal now in Providence, again, we are really trying to increase our star scores And since the COVID pandemic, we've really seen lots of our schools move up. So as you can see here on the bottom, where there's only 1 star where that orange arrow is on the left, the only category that you can score 1 star in is the actual RICAS exam. And they split this exam up into achievement, which is basically another word for proficiency, how high students are scoring, as well as growth, which is how much did students improve from one year to another. Now, the thing is, as you can see, as students improve over time, our main goal is for students to go from that 1 star level to 2 stars to 3 stars. So our school's ratings are only based on their lowest star score. So if a school scores 1 star in RICAS, but they score 4 stars in everything else, it's still a 1 star school. So RICAS is really the base of this entire evaluation system. Again, why do we focus on RICAS growth, right? So the basic way to put this is every time a student takes a RICAS exam, they take their overall score and they're put into one of these 3 buckets, right? They're either called low growth, typical growth, or high growth. And Ms. G, if you go to the next slide. Basically, the way that this works is if a student scores a certain score in an exam, so let's say Sally, Ron, and Tommy here, they all score 5% proficient on the RICAS exam when they're in 3rd grade. But when they go to 4th grade, they're only compared to the students in that bucket. That means that they're not compared to students that scored 50%, such as Joey, Lee, and Marcia. So if Ron in that 5% bucket, he has a great year, he has a great teacher, he's been doing lots of his homework, lots of reading and writing in school and at home. If he jumps to 20%, yet the other peers throughout the state stay in that bucket, Ron is going to net us a high growth score. He's actually going to net the school 2 points instead of 1 or 0. And that's really what we're trying to do with our students. We've really been trying to accelerate the academic growth so that when we compare them to students across the state, we're not just in that typical growth category that's growing as 1 point, we're in that high growth category because our students are learning so much during the school year.
So based on that test, what type of questions will my child be asked? So ELA and math use different type of questions that include multiple choice. Students will have a question similar to an ABCD type of question where they will need to answer either A, B, C, or D. They will have a fill in the blank option where they will need to fill in the blank based on inputting their own words in the blank. They will have a multiple select where they will need to answer 3 of the best answers or 2 of the best answers from a multiple choice option. They will also have drag and drops where they might need to order different answers in a specific sequence, where they will need to drag sections from the left and put it into the answer key. Or they will have a written response. Written responses are 2 separate answers. One is a short answer called a constructive response, and one is a longer type of answer called an essay. When we talk about constructive responses in essays, we've been working a lot at the school building on a writing strategy called RACES. Each school in our district might have a different type of strategy, but they are all very similar. So here at Sackett, we do use RACES. RACES are for students to first restate the answer for the R. What is the question that they're asking us? So let's restate that, and then let's answer that question. C, we want to cite the evidence from the text, going back to the text, looking for a quote to support our answer, and then explaining that evidence that supports that answer. And then at the end, we want to sum it up by going over that question and answer to bring it all together in a paragraph. So we want our students to reread their responses once they're written and making sure that the question is answered and cited with evidence from the text.
So at Youngwood's very similar. We use RACER. Instead of using sum it up, we have recap at the end. The big thing that we see that students need support with, and again, this is something that families can help with at home, it's that C piece in both of these strategies. So it's that cite evidence. We see our students are very good at restating a question. They're very good at saying this is the answer. but we see difficulty when it starts to come to cite evidence and then explain the evidence. So our faculties in our buildings have been working very hard to make sure that students know, again, quotations, facts, examples, take things that are right from the text and put them there. And then for the E, it's I know this because, right? So students are now saying, yeah, this is the answer. And I know this is the answer because I'm citing this and this means this. So we've worked very hard on that. And, there's sometimes if a student's asked to write an essay and not just a constructed response, there might be multiple C's and E's, right? So they might cite evidence and explain it, and cite more evidence and explain it, and cite more evidence and explain it. And as students go up in grade level, we start seeing more of those dynamic paragraphs. So here, again, why do we focus on writing, right? You've heard me and Ms. G talk about writing. Well, this pretty much explains it, right? So you see that when a student takes a multiple choice question on their ELA RICAS, every multiple choice is only worth 1 point, all right? Now, if they have some multiple choice where they click those boxes that Ms. G was talking about, they can get up to 2 points for those questions. Well, it's really those essays and those constructed responses that our students are able to get the lion's share of the points for this test. So for every short response, which is for students in grades 3 and 4, they're able to get up to 3 points for those. And that short response is basically a 5 to 7 sentence paragraph. Then again, for these text-based essays, students can get up to 7 points. So we really want to focus on if they can really do that races or racer strategy, really create that evidence, explain that evidence, and answer the question, they're really going to be able to get a lot of points from their writing.
Dr. Riley and Ms. G, if you can just slow down just a tiny bit, okay?
Yeah, sorry.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So all that this shows here is that this is the rubric that students get graded on for their essays. So there's 2 different parts of this rubric. So on the left here, there's idea development. This is basically is how well is the student answering the question and how deeply are they going into answering it. So this part of the rubric ranges from 0 to 4 points. And again, our goal is for students to score as high on this as possible. When you look across the state, students are scoring an average of about 2.8 points on this rubric. So we always tell our students if they shoot for a 3, they're going to be above the state average. And of course, we have students that can score much higher than that, either reaching a 5 or a 7. On the right side, what you see is basically how students are graded based on how well they write. That is like the dynamics. Are they using periods? Are they using capitalization? Are they using quotations and commas correctly? And when you combine these scores together, that's how a student gets their overall writing score. And what you're seeing here, this is something that we go over with our students very frequently, is you see on the bottom axis there where it goes 0 to 7, that's the average score a student gets. And if you look at the y-axis, it's going up and down, you'll see that that's the average number of words students write. So if you look right there above a 3, which is what we're targeting, on average for students to score a 3 on the RICAS, which is above the state average, students have to be able to write 200 words on their essay. So again, we've been working a lot with students about how you do that in terms of taking those quotes from the text, in terms of really explaining your reasoning in order to increase their number of words in their essay. But about 200 words, it's about a good 8 to 10 sentence paragraph. And this is an example of Youngwood's from back in 2021. And what you can see here is that when students wrote less than 0 to 50 words, that was the majority of students, right? And then it was from 50 to 100 words was more students. We had very few students that were writing 200 or more words. I mean, you can see right there, it was 4, 5, it was about 10 students that were writing 2 to 250 and another 10 that were writing 250 to 300. Since 2021, we put a lot of focus on, again, increasing that word count in order to increase their scores. And we're super excited this year to really see those scores rise based on that. So as I said, this is a score of a 3. This is exactly what we're looking for students to write. again, just like Ms. G was saying, it restates the question, it answers the question, it cites evidence that's there in quotations, it explains it. You see the students say that this means, right? So now they're saying exactly what that quote actually has in terms of the text, and then they wrap it up at the end in conclusion. So if we have a student that writes that good 5-sentence paragraph that answers the question with good evidence, they're scoring a 3, which again is higher than the state average. One thing I think a lot of our schools have done, we've really focused on students setting their goals, right? So any student that's in grade 4 or 5 most likely has taken this previously in grade 3, unless they're new to the state of Rhode Island. So we've had them look at their previous scores. They've set those scores. I know all administrators in the district have worked really hard on making sure that lessons are reflective of what students are seeing on this exam. And of course, we're having students teach each other in, different kind of groupings where, students that are proficient are working with other students to really help support them in their growth. And this is an example of the work that we're doing. We've seen at our school, students are set to grow 1.73 years in their reading level in just 1 year of school. So that's nearly double, right? So we're doing really good work in Providence. And this is across all schools. We're seeing a great jump in terms of, since the pandemic, students, again, if they're in first grade, we have many students that are leaving at a 3rd grade reading level, it's unheard of. But our faculty, our students, our families, they're doing a really great job in making that happen.
So thinking of how you can support your child to be prepared for RICAS, try to create a positive testing environment. Talk to them about how they can do it, and have a positive attitude about the test, making sure your child gets enough sleep, gets to school on time. I know a lot of schools in Providence, we will be starting sharp at 9:45 if you're a 9:15 school. If you're an 8 o'clock school, they might be starting right around 8:45. So try to encourage your child to read the questions fully and take their time when reading. Practice the writing and math strategies with your child that might be school specific. I know at Young Woods and at Sackett, we use RACES, RACER, the KWLP, and RAP. Review questions together so that you're familiar. There is a link right there for the RICAS practice test link. Practice a test with your child at home so they get used to the drag and drops. They get used to what it's like to write an essay with more than 200 characters. What is it like when you're on the math test and you're using the ruler? Encourage your child to check their answers and have a positive attitude. All we want with our students is just that we ask them to try their best and have a positive outtake on the test so that you can complete it and feel accomplished at the end of the test.
Yeah, I mean, like Ms. G is saying, this is basically the Super Bowl for our students, right? We've been preparing them all year. They've practiced. They've had the regular season. They're in the playoffs right now, and they're really about to get to that big game. And with all of that, right, there's been a lot of effort and a lot of energy exerted. And it's really important for our kids to make sure the night before any of these exams, they're getting to bed early, right? They're not up late. They're not playing video games till early in the morning. They're really focused. They have a great dinner at night. They're in bed. They have breakfast in the morning, either at home or at school, and that they have a good mindset, right? We want our students to be positive. We want them to know that they're supported, and we want them to know we know they're going to do well. They have put in the work. They are going to do well, and this is their time to show it.
So how does the school prepare my child? As Mr. Riley's been talking about, we've been doing a lot of work at the school about writing, making sure that our teachers are also having them have access to these practice tests. Teachers have been working very hard, aligning a lot of their instruction to RICAS for all students in grades 3, 4, and 5. So we've been trying to create a positive environment for our students. We give our students social and emotional buckets that might have fidgets. They might have incentives inside them, and they might have positive messages. So a lot of our students, when they come in, they'll have a positive message with a growth mindset of how they're going to do great on the test with a little snack. Within the bucket, there might be water, there might be snacks and other type of fidgets that they can get through the test, because it is, like, again, a 120-minute block for ELA and math. When your child comes in, there will have breakfast, and there will also be healthy snacks throughout the testing window to make sure that they feel accomplished and ready to take the test the whole time. The RICAS alignment during our ELA and math instruction has been our focus since the beginning of the year. We're making sure that students have access to RICAS-like questions, RICAS-like exit tickets, to making sure that the student is achieving the standard. We've been doing year-round practice in writing and math with your child. They will know the races. You've probably heard it at home. You will hear them talking about the different math strategy that they're trying to use to solve word problems. We do school-wide practice days to mimic RICAS. The full school does a practice test to make sure that all students have access of taking a test just like RICAS. And then a lot of our schools have been offering the RICAS before and after school tutoring. And next week we do have RICAS boot camp from 9 to 1 at the elementary schools. So that's another opportunity to send your child for the whole week of April break from 9 to 1 to really get to RICAS practice with teachers here at the school. So how do I know my child performed on RICAS assessment? Each student will receive an individual student score report, as also known as the ISR, the following school year. This report will have their scale score and achievement level. So it will say if they met proficiency, if they were near proficiency for ELA and for math. 4th and 5th grade students will have a growth score so that they will talk about what was their student growth percentile. The report will point out points earned for each test question, and then that report is also sent to the school. These are the reports that we went over with each student when talking about growth and talking about what was their personalized goal for this RICAS test this time. The school also had 2 writing samples and 2 math problems that we were able to share with each child, so that they were able to really look at what was my writing like last year and what's my goal for this year so I can improve. So these conversations and going over these scores with the children really have been able to create little growth goals for themselves that they want to achieve when taking the RICAS test this year.
Does anybody have any questions about RICAS?
Yeah, actually, no, right now what came up was SAT. I know there was a lot of information, but if anyone has any question, let me see if anyone raised their hand. No.
I mean, Janet, you can feel free to share, myself and Ms. G's email with anybody. If they want to reach out with any questions, we're more than happy to answer, give a phone call, whatever. We want to make sure all of our students in Providence are prepared as possible.
Yes, and so maybe this will, let me see, maybe provoke some other families to go ahead and ask questions. I have a few questions that could be helpful for some of our families. Can you share, will there be hard copies provided for families in terms of that practice test? I know you mentioned the link was on the PowerPoint. Is that upon request, or is that something that will be provided before students go on break on Thursday?
So the practice test they do on the computer, but I could print out a paper copy and I could have the students backpack at home so that they could take it over April break. That is something that we've been doing all of 2018, 19, 20, and 21. Some of the released items we've been doing on every week to get the students prepared. As Mr. Riley was talking about the road to RICAS, we've been mapping out week by week of what release problems we could be doing with our students to make sure that they have access, but we could also print some out and give them to each students to backpack home.
Okay, would that be something that if a parent that's on the call but may not be enrolled in, their children enrolled in any of the other elementary schools, is it safe to say that they could ask for a hard copy from their principal and that?
Yes, they're very easy accessible. This parent could just call the school and be able to print them home.
Okay. The other question that I had was if you could just remind families again, the RICAS, is it for all of our elementary school students, K to, well, actually K to 8? So is it for all of our K to 12 or K to 8 or just elementary? If you can just clarify.
It's for
Yeah,
all.
so our RICAS is grades 3 through 5. So we do a lot of work still in K through 2, getting students ready for that grade 3. And I think that's something I know Miss G and I are really working hard on, is getting those second graders to know that writing strategy, getting them ready to know that math strategy, so that by the time they hit grade 3, they're really hitting the ground running and not learning it for the first time. And that really happens with, our continuity and building administration. That's something the district's working really hard on. But again, the test format doesn't really change after grade 5. The students have 2 essays. They have to respond to those, and that's always going to be the best bang for our buck.
And then RICAS continues for all 6th, 7th, and 8th graders until they get to the PSAT in 9th grade if they opt in for that, or 10th grade.
Okay, wonderful. And my final question is, can you share how and if there are accommodations for students that are enrolled in our special education programs and or our students that are multilingual learners, just so that families that are on the call, might be able to understand how, what exactly is going to be provided to students that might need additional supports, if any.
So for our my bilingual strand, if you are new to the country, less than 1 year, you do not take the English RICAS test. You do still take the math test, but not the English component. And then you are also able to have access to a glossary. That kind of works like a dictionary. That is a reference guide that all students are able to get. For your IEP students, it is written into your IEP for what accommodations that you will need on state testing. And those accommodations that is inside every student's IEP will be inputted by us into the system to make sure that they have access to those accommodations. Those accommodations might be small grouping, so the student will be pulled out of the mainstream classroom into a smaller group. They may have a reader where the teacher will read the test aloud to them. There may be having a scribe where the person that is in the testing room will scribe what the student is stating. They may have audio where they're going to hear the directions aloud. There are multiple of accommodations, but it's whatever accommodations are in the student-specific IEP.
And if you have any questions about that, I guarantee if you reach out to your school, speak with an assistant principal, a social worker, any of those folks would be able to tell you exactly what that is.
That's wonderful.
And
And
there's some questions in the chat.
okay, and I just wanted to confirm, the RICAS begins the Monday students return from spring break. Yes?
The Tuesday.
That's one of the questions. What is the date for testing?
I believe that's the 18th. It's the Tuesday we get back, not the Monday.
Okay.
That starts for ELA. Yep.
Okay.
Another question says, my daughter was given the RICAS folder. Will she use this for study for testing, please? So
I mean, I can't speak for the individual school, but I would think if they get anything that says RICAS on it, and there's any kind of, worksheets, prep materials, that would be something to, really go over them every night. The best thing any family can do, again, is have students read something and ask them to explain, why they're answering the way they are. If our students can explain their reasoning, they're going to do phenomenally.
Yeah. And I wanted to just, I know that we have other questions, but just to remind families, we have 2 principals in this Zoom right now. They are from specific schools, right? So Woods Young and also Sackett. So if you are a parent from another elementary school here in the district, there may be just a slight difference of some strategies to help your child be prepared for the test right after the spring break. So please make sure, as Dr. Riley mentioned, if you have any questions leaving this Zoom that perhaps might have not been answered, just because there might be something different that's happening at your school, please do not hesitate before the break. Make sure you ask your questions back at your school. Any other questions, Delia?
Yeah. You talked about a link to practice. Can you share the link so they can access the practice with their children? So I don't know if you can share that in the
Miss Francisco, check and see if you're able to enter it in the chat on your end. You might be able to do it now. I just changed it to everyone.
See that.
Another question is if RICAS is given every year around this time?
Currently it is. I know that we're looking at some different models, but right now it's usually right around that April to May kind of time frame.
The Rhode
Another-
Island Department of Ed tells us our testing window, and the district tells us which weeks it is. But usually the testing window for RICAS is March, the end of March to the end of April. So within those 2 months is when we have to choose our weeks.
Another mom asked, she has a second grader and knows they're not taking it this year, but is there anything she can do to prep her child in preparation for next year? She apologized, she came in a little late, but was interested in making sure that she's up to date and preparing her student.
I think it's the same song and dance. It's writing, writing, writing. You know, have students look at those passages and ask them, you know, different prompts and ask them to explain why. You know, if you're reading a certain passage about a character and it's asking about a character trait, you know, don't just ask your student, hey, you know, what trait does the character have? It's what trait does this character have and how do you know, right? Because as soon as a student can explain how do you know, you think about that races or eraser strategy. Now you've got to cite something. Now you've got to explain something. And you're using that higher order of thinking that this test really asks students to do.
We covered all the questions.
You have, okay. If there's anyone that would like to have ask a question and you want to ask it live, we can take at least one so that way we can move on and allow Ms. D'Antuono to talk about PSATs and SATs.
Fabria raised her hand. Questions there.
And Janet, like I said, if you just want to share our emails, we're more than happy to get back to anybody. So
Yes, Dr. Riley and Ms. Gianfrancisco, can you go ahead and enter your emails, please, while we're just trying to balance a few things here. Can you enter it in your chat? Let's see if it goes in there. And while I try to ask Rosa Alba if she can go ahead and just turn on her microphone. Rosa Alba?
Soy el novio de Rosalba, que yo la apoyo con su hija.
Okay.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Una pregunta, si es que me están escuchando.
Sí, lo escuchamos.
Tratamos de ver con quién podemos hablar en la escuela para ver qué pasos podemos empezar a tomar con Ashley. Qué se puede empezar a hacer, ya que tiene 13 años y queremos saber cómo empezar a ayudarla, qué programas o a dónde la podemos llevar para que ella empiece a ver qué le gusta o qué escuela se puede aplicar. Si me pueden contestar eso, gracias.
Escúcheme, señor, usted, para entender bien su pregunta, es que la niña no está inscrita todavía en las escuelas.
Tú lo silenciaste, no se oye nada, están hablando y no se oye.
Yo no sé, ¿no?
Nosotros lo escuchamos a usted. ¿No escuchan? Rosalba?
Me parece que se conecta.
Okay. We had some technical difficulty there. What we'll do is that we're going to just continue and allow Judy D'Antuono to go ahead and start us off with PSATs and SATs.
Great. Thank you
Okay.
guys so much for your time tonight.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dr. Riley. Thank you, Ms. G.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, I'm gonna attempt to share. Can you see my screen?
You can see it.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna try to start this from the beginning. Okay. So I'm going to talk tonight about what's known as the SAT suite of assessments. That is the new terminology for all of the College Board testing that's offered to high school students in Providence and really throughout the country. So the SAT suite of assessments includes 4 tests that begin actually in 8th grade. And I believe that Providence is still using PSAT 8, but I'm not this year in the spring. So there's PSAT 8 and 9. There's PSAT 10. PSAT NMSQT, which is the National Merit Scholar Qualifying Test, which is offered in grade 11. And the SAT, which is offered in the end of grade 11 and or beginning of grade 12. So let me just go back for 1 minute. The PSAT 10 and the PSAT NMSQT are very similar and similarly scored tests in that, but in the 11th grade, the fall of the 11th grade, students who take the PSAT NMSQT are entered into a national scholarship competition. There is an overall national one. There is a national competition for Latinx students, and there's a national scholarship qualifying competition for African American students. So there's potential that students could earn a great deal of scholarship money just by doing well on the assessment. The SAT suite of assessments offers many things for students, and we'll talk more about these as we go through. But the first thing to know is that there's a great deal of alignment between the work that students are doing in school and the work that they're asked to demonstrate on the SAT. We have chosen the SAT as a state because we are working towards 21st century skills, Common Core skills that are found within the SAT. It establishes a baseline for college readiness. It offers free practice for students when they're linked to Khan Academy. It measures student growth and progress from grade 8 or 9 up through their senior year of high school. It measures potential to take advanced placement classes, which are college classes offered within the high school. So before students even leave high school, they have the opportunity to learn anywhere from 3 to 12 to 15 college credits while still in high school, if they're taking advanced placement classes. It is used by colleges and universities to recruit students if students share their information with them. It is also used if students link their accounts, they can apply for scholarships and search scholarships. And it supports admission, placement, and student retention at the college level. So those are just some highlights of what the SAT offers for students. I just want to say that while this is our state assessment in terms of measuring growth for schools, it also is a very personalized experience for students when they take the PSAT and SAT because many colleges require the SAT for admission. After COVID, because of the limitations of testing, many schools, not all, but many did opt out of the SAT score reporting by students for a year or two. But this year, many schools are now asking for the SAT test again. So that's important for parents to know. This is just a little chart of what is offered at each grade level in the progression that it takes. We do have testing for most grades, especially 10 and 11, once in the fall and once in the spring. This slide shows what the SAT actually does measure and how scores are reported. You do get a total overall score on your SAT assessment. And then it is broken down into two sections, two bigger overall sections. You get a score for evidence-based reading and writing and a score for math. There are 3 sub-scores, one for reading, one for writing and language, and again, one for math. There's also cross-test scores. These are not reported to colleges. The 2 scores that are reported to colleges are evidence-based reading and writing and math. And these sub-scores basically measure different types of reading and writing, whether it's narrative writing from like an English language class or analysis of science and nonfiction text. And math is also broken down into algebra, data analysis, and more advanced math like pre-calculus and algebra 2. I was listening to our elementary and middle school colleagues talk about, RICAS and the RACES strategy, which we actually adapted at the high school level a little bit differently, but pretty similar, because one of the biggest things students need to do and demonstrate is command of evidence. They are asked to read passages, sometimes very long passages, and their answers are based on evidence that they find within the readings. Vocabulary is also a very big part of the SAT. While they're not asking, per se, what does perseverance mean? They don't ask students to define it, but they will ask a question that students will have to demonstrate that they know what that word means to answer the question in context. These are just some score reports, how the SAT is measured. It is measured on a scale from 200 to 800, the PSAT from 160 to 760, and the PSAT 8-9 from 120 to 720. And then there's a little bit more of a breakdown based on cross-test scores and sorry, my fingers keep shifting. So here you can see, based on benchmark scores, if a student reaches benchmark, they have a 75% likelihood of earning at least a C in a first semester credit-bearing college course in a related subject. Grade level benchmarks are based on expected student growth towards SAT benchmarks. So a student in the 9th grade will take the assessment, and their benchmark score for reading, evidence-based reading and writing, would be a 410. If they score a 410, it is very likely that if their progression in school continues and they have quality education, their SAT score as a senior will meet the benchmark of 480. If their scores are below a 410, there's a lot of opportunity for practice and ways to grow, again, to still continue to move towards that benchmark of 480 and surpass it. This is just a sample score report. Students can use the information on their score report to look at specific areas of academic strengths and weakness. They can review skills insight, which is a report online from College Board, to get targeted suggestions for improving performance. They can identify specific test questions and answer explanations online based on areas of difficulty to clarify errors in understanding. All of our teachers, I want to note here, have asked students to link their College Board accounts to Khan Academy, which is an online service that's offered free to all Providence schools. And when the two are linked, students get very targeted, individualized practice to help them increase their scores for the next time they sit for the SAT or PSAT. Teachers also have links to student data and score reports if the student allows, and they use these score reports to provide targeted instruction for students in the classroom. Again, all with the goal of helping students to increase performance, both in class and on assessments. Another opportunity that students have by taking the SAT is they can unlock a tool called Big Futures. Students can create a College Board account at any time in their life, really. Actually, I think they have to be 13. They set up free accounts. All of our students, again, were asked to create accounts once they come to high school. They can connect with colleges and scholarships. They can save and update college lists because those might change over 4 years. And they can join the Opportunity Scholars Program. And I did note here that all PPSD students should be registered already with College Board if they are in 9th or 10th grade. And they all have access to these free tools. If you join Big Futures and you complete any of these steps that are listed here, you have an opportunity to earn anywhere. They have drawings nationally, a scholarship of between $500 and $40,000 from Big Futures. All you have to do is start a college list or explore scholarships. Take a practice SAT. Go in and revise your college list. Complete a FAFSA form, that would be their senior year, which is the free application for federal student aid. And if they apply to colleges online and are connected, again, they're entered for scholarships. Big Futures also has a mobile-friendly app that students can use, and they can they'll have access to it 24/7. So if they're having a conversation with a friend and they happen to be talking about different colleges and a friend has a college they want to, share with them, or the student wants to investigate it because their friend's looking at it, they can go in right away and search it up. The scholarship search that is available through College Board matches student scholarships based on the information that they enter, their background, their achievements, their future plans. It gives information, depending on the information the student provides, it gives them more scholarships or less. So the more information they provide, the more scholarship matches they will see. Again, these are just some things that are available through scholarship search. By taking the SAT, students also have access to free career finders. It's a career exploration tool that is, again, provided by College Board. They can get text as well as videos on different careers. They can do a career search and a career match by answering some questions based on interest and skills they believe they have. And then they will get a report on what careers might match their interest and skills. The student search service, once the students take the SAT and PSAT, students will have an opportunity to investigate 1,500 four-year colleges, be entered into $300 million worth of scholarship opportunities. And there's about 5.6 million students who participate in this program. And students, when they register for the PSAT or SAT, they're asked to fill out a questionnaire. Answering that questionnaire provides them direct access to these things. Students, again, can take a full practice SAT through Khan Academy. They can take more than one. We at Alvarez High School have offered students 2 full-length practice tests this year. On our early release days in the fall, and again, actually in December, and again in February, early February, we did 2 full-length practice tests. Teachers took the data from those practice tests, shared them with students, but also used that data to drive their instruction in classes to help students, again, improve on the spring assessment. So if students do register for the SAT and link to Khan Academy, the more time a student spends in the official SAT practice area with Khan Academy, the more likelihood their scores are to increase. Students who study for at least 6 hours, and that does not mean 6 hours straight, that means a total of 6 hours, in an official study program with Khan Academy, and follow at least one best practice score, on average score 40 points higher on their SAT on the next testing. We had students last year that put in over 100 hours of SAT practice and increased his score by over 150 points, which is phenomenal. The best way to support your child with SAT information and College Board information is to speak to your child's school counselor. We offer school-based testing, but some students still register for the test in a separate sitting because they want another opportunity to take it. Those tests are offered throughout the state on a Saturday. At different, Rhode Island College offers it. I think CCRI is still hosting. Some of the private schools host testing on Saturdays, and any child can register. If you qualify for a free and reduced lunch, you can get a fee waiver. So it doesn't have to just be testing within the school. Students can test optionally outside as well. I always say that students should take the test at least 2 times, if not 3. Their best score reports are reported to colleges if that's what they choose. They do not have to submit them all. The best way to prepare for test day, very similar to elementary and middle school. This doesn't change. The one thing that is actually, it's not different. Instead of offering RICAS boot camp, we are offering PSAT and SAT boot camp over the April vacation. all high school students have been offered this opportunity, and I would highly encourage them to take advantage of this program. It will run from 9 to 1, and there will be specific strategies used and reviewed that will help, I think, ease testing day anxiety for students. Use the College Board Khan Academy link that should be set up and practice. It's 20 to 30 minutes at home every night. That will help increase, again, if nothing else, their anxiety on test day, which can sometimes get in the way of performance. Get a good night's sleep. Every student that works should be asked to take the night off the day before testing. At high school, this is really important because we have students that work till 11, 12 o'clock at night. By the time they get home and wind down, they're not getting to bed until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's really important that they get a good night's sleep the night before. They should eat breakfast. We always have free breakfast at the school. If they don't want to eat at home, or they need to, get on the bus to get to school, they want to grab a snack at home and then eat again at school. The more nourishment your brain has, the better you will perform. Test day is April 19th, and students must arrive on time. If they are late, they will not be allowed into testing rooms. The SAT is very strict. Because it is a national test, they are very strict with security and protocols. So we are not allowed to deviate at all from those protocols. And I think that is all I have. I know that there was a question in the chat initially. I'm going to try to stop sharing. I know that there was a question in the chat initially about the digital SAT. The state and college board, I believe it was a state decision to go digital because the college board does still offer paper testing. We did a paper test in the spring. The spring test is digital. We also did digital testing last spring. So, students are getting used to it. There are many tools available online for students to use, such as highlighting calculators. So it is the option that the state has chosen, and this is what we are using this year.
Okay, Delia, no questions, right?
No, the questions that were written, that were asked, I was able to answer. There were more from before, and some of them were about helping their students with the language. So I was answering. There weren't SAT or PSAT. Oh, one person did ask at what grade do they take the SAT if they're in 8th grade.
So every child in grade 9 through 12 will take some version of the SAT. So they will start the PSAT 9 in 9th grade, and then it moves up. The SAT that is reported to colleges, the score reports that go to colleges for admission, are offered in 11th grade, end of 11th grade, and 12th grade.
Okay, I wanted to ask one question. Is April 19th, the test day that you mentioned, is that the same day for all high schools?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then boot camp, you did mention boot camp. Is it too late for any parent that has a student that has not signed up? Every school is encouraging students,
Yes.
every school is encouraging students to participate.
Yes, and I do believe that students can, I mean, at Alvarez, I don't think we're going to turn anyone away.
Right.
Okay. The Khan Academy that you mentioned, so do students practice or use Khan Academy, the link that you shared during the school day?
Yes, they do. So students in not our seniors, because they don't take lab classes, but students in grades 9 through, actually, our seniors do also. Let me correct myself. Students in grades 9 through 11 have their intervention classes, which are math lab or ELA lab, all practice Khan Academy. Yes. And then 12th grade, teachers do practice Khan Academy occasionally, but there's so much content to get through in the senior year, it's sometimes difficult. But as long as a student has an account, and they should all have accounts, they can go on there and do their practice at home.
I have two questions. One that was asked here in the Q&A is, what's the score that a student needs to get for the SAT? What's the
So the national average benchmark for ELA, reading and writing, evidence-based reading and writing, is 480. That's the national average. For math, it's 510.
Okay. And then the other question, there may be students who don't have a Social Security number because of their immigration status. Can they still sign up for the College Board?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Sorry,
great.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine, because I know that they're eligible for in-state tuition at state colleges, so they may be eligible for additional scholarships to buy books and those kinds of things. So,
Yep. So the SAT, I do not believe they are not obligated to list a social security number. I don't believe it even asks them to put a social security number. I think that parent may be thinking about the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. If a parent and or child does not have a social security number, there are ways around that for student aid. And all our high school counselors should be well versed in that. I'm like 99% sure they are. I know mine are very well versed in it.
right.
So
Because also, I know that there are some colleges that if the student is admitted and doesn't have a Social Security number, they could still attend the college if the policy of that school allows it.
right. Every college, sorry, I'm trying to turn my light on. It got very dark.
There
Every
you go.
college is different. Most are moving in that direction, and there are many that already are there. That's why I say school counselors are the greatest resource, I think, for students, especially in their junior and senior year. So people should not be afraid to
Right.
email, to call, to ask questions. This is coming from a person who was a school counselor for 19 years. So, yeah.
No, that's important, because I work with a lot of families that don't have the Social Security number and they're afraid.
Yes.
And then they lose opportunities for signing up for College Board and other scholarship opportunities because of that. They say, oh, I can't go to college, but that's not true.
That is not,
Because
yeah.
there are many opportunities. So it's important that they support their students in studying for the SATs, the PSATs, to get on the College Board, because there's opportunities for them out there.
Yes. And I think Janet, you posted things in the past. I think I may have presented at one of them years ago, but I that might be another presentation. It's really important. People should not be afraid to reach out to colleges, to their counselors who will, our counselors have a direct link to people at CCRI. Rhode Island College is phenomenal in working with our undocumented students. People should not be afraid. And your counselors can guide them to the schools that are very accepting.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a question about what's the FAFSA deadline?
Usually March 1st, but the FAFSA it depends on the college. So Rhode Island has a scholarship, and the Rhode Island, I don't want to misspeak because I haven't.
The state has a college. The state has a grant that
Yes.
you complete the FAFSA before March 1st.
March 1st, right.
you're eligible for it, but now they move the start of the FAFSA prior to.
Up to October, yeah. Or actually, it might even be earlier now.
Right. So, but it's in the senior year.
Yes,
So
always in
great.
the senior year, yes. But some schools have earlier financial aid deadlines. So while the state may be March 1st, depending on the school you're applying to, their financial aid deadlines, some of them are February 1st, some are February 15th. So you really have to make a spreadsheet of the schools that your child's applying to and list all the dates out.
Now, do the counselors assist with FAFSA or do they need to get assistance somewhere else?
No, our counselors are, again, very well versed in this
Beautiful.
area. And most of the high schools, if the regular counselors are not, they have either Crusade counselors or college planning center counselors that come in and work with families. Yeah.
So, and after March 1st, you can still apply. So if your child did not complete the FAFSA yet, and we're in April, you can still apply for FAFSA because there are schools that will accept it. So,
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Some schools' deadlines are June. It really, again, it just depends on where your child has applied.
right.
Judy, just one last question regarding College Board. You said that every student should have an account for College
Yes.
Board as
Yep.
of 9th grade. Start.
So I know that in 8th grade, they were registering students because we were having a lot of trouble with, the 8th grade is young, so they forget their passwords. They're like, this isn't meaningful to me. So when they were coming in 9th grade, we were having to go through a lot to redo them because it's very secure. It's not easy to reset your password, but it can be done. So in 9th grade this year, we were registering all our 9th graders for College Board accounts that did not have them coming from 8th grade. Yeah.
Okay. And I ask, because you mentioned Career Finder,
Mhm.
and I think, I guess if you can just share with families, right now, students are given access to be able to go through these surveys or questionnaires. Are they encouraged to share that information back home? So that way, at least, so that way, at least a parent is able to nurture that interest, just support the student and looking for further information.
So I think the College Board actually prompts students to share with families a lot. Again, I don't want to misspeak for everyone in the district, but we encourage our students to start having these conversations with their families early on. Another thing they do in advisory in high schools is Naviance. And the Naviance tasks are also directly related to these tasks where they can do career searches, search scholarships, search colleges. So unfortunately, though, having two grown adults who were teenagers once, it's not the first thing they want to talk about every night, especially in 9th and 10th grade. It just seems like so far down the road. So maybe you set some family time aside on a Saturday or Sunday and say, we're going to spend 20 minutes talking about, what you're thinking about for a career. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, what college will you be at? What kind of car will you drive? I mean, because these things all are related. You want to go out and buy the fancy sneakers, but you're going to have to be able to do that yourself someday, right? So important conversations. And the more we talk to our kids, the more information we'll get. We just got to ask the right questions.
There you go. All righty.
Thank you so much, Judy. This is great information.
I also think parents can have their own accounts on College Board. I don't think they can be linked to the student, but parents can also create College Board accounts for themselves and do a lot of the same things their kids are doing.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Judy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and all this information. So again, just encouraging our families that have students in high school to, seek, your child's guidance counselor for more information, but also asking the right questions, for our young people. I know that many times once they're in high school, it's really hard to sit them down and talk about the future. As you mentioned, Judy, it just seems like too far away. They don't want to talk about that right now. But we do want to get them to a point where they are thinking about what's going to happen once they're in senior year, because they don't want to start thinking about career path, in 12th grade. If
Right.
it's
One
important
quick
before.
question, Judy. A parent says that they don't send the PSAT scores home. They only send a message that they took the test. Is there any way to get that score? Because some parents may not know the score of their child, and the child may not want to share it with their parents.
Yeah, I was under the impression that we did share PSAT scores,
Okay.
but now that we've gone digital, that may not. I'm going to look into that.
Okay.
Because I would think so. Again, because it's College Board, the securities and protocols are very different than like when we had what was our last park assessments or
Oh, yeah.
but let me check into that because I'm not 100%
And
sure.
if you can let the FACE office know, and then
Yeah.
Janet, when you call, we can have that information for parents.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're
You're
welcome.
good at it, Janet.
Anything else? Oh, I see.
I think we have a couple more questions. Oh, thank you for all the information. Somebody has to go, but they thank you very much for the information.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Okay. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
ladies.
Have a good evening, Judy.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And again, for anyone who might have a question or concern, and you just need a little bit of guidance, our office is here to help. So please make sure that you reach out to us. You can always call our office 401-456-0686.